If you want to have better time management, first realize that you're dumb and you don't have the capacity to decide the best thing to spend your time on. You might be the most brilliant person in the world, but this is still true. And what I mean by that is we don't know the best thing to spend our time on until we get closer to what we're working on. And the best thing to spend our time on changes constantly. So the things you can do to have the best time management isn't to block out your schedule a certain way. It's not to have a checklist. It's not any of those structured, keep it the same way things. It's make your life better. I mean, do try to schedule, do try to checklist, do try to do all the tricks that they have, because as you do it, you'll learn from them. But if you do consistent things to make yourself healthier, happier, smarter, then your decisions will become more effective, and then your time management will become more effective because your ability to decide what to spend your time on will be higher. You will have a higher ability to do that. That might be a little too broad of an answer, but I think a lot of people kind of forget that. A lot of people forget that we don't always have the ability to make the best decision now, but we can set ourselves up to be able to make the right decision. Yeah, and what you do is you practice dealing with changing situations. Most of us don't. Most of us, anytime we study, anytime we practice in a very static manner. So an example of that's kind of out of the box that gets the point across is like, let's say you want to learn to play a melody on the guitar. So you learn to play this melody on the guitar. You probably learned it sitting down in your room in dead silence where everything's safe and quiet. Okay, so that's good, but now that you know it, go for a walk on the beach, put a strap on your guitar and go for a walk on the beach and play it there. Now try to balance on one foot and play it. Now see if you can hold your guitar over your head and walk into the water, and while waves are hitting you, see if you can still play it. So you're developing the ability to deal with a specific situation in many different situations. So that's taking one skill set and making you able to apply it in a whole bunch of different ways, which is sort of the basis of your ability to improvise. But then also from there, then you step out again and you learn how to play different melodies on the first try. You do them in more and more varying situations. And I don't just mean playing the guitar. It could mean anything. It could mean an investment strategy. It could mean a way of speaking. It could mean languages. It could mean social behavior. Anything that you're trying to learn, you start by learning a small thing and then extrapolating that out into variation. Actually, that book that I mentioned, The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin, talks about this, and it's phenomenal. I try to talk about what's on my mind, and that probably is a disappointing answer because most anyone that wants to ask, how do you come up with content, wants a plan. And I've planned most of my life. I plan a lot, and eventually you get to a point where you've kind of got to play it more by ear. And you realize you can sometimes get more beautiful things from playing by ear. So if I have an idea for a video, say next week, and I write it down, I will actually get rid of the piece of paper that I wrote it down on. And if I think of it again the next week and I want to do it, great, I do it. But if I don't, then it's gone because we get too attached to our good ideas when really what matters is making stuff. I don't think so. We need a colorful life. People need excitement, variety, hope, and we need it to be multifaceted. It's really, really important to have a world that's like deep and rich and has just so many angles that you can look at it from, because that's what makes things beautiful. That's what makes things exciting. I really like the explanation that Elon Musk gives for space travel, because he says something along the lines of, we need to go out into space because it would be more interesting if we did. I mean, that's like pretty much his whole explanation for the epic effort that he's putting forth in that arena. And it's highly logical, because the idea is people have to move towards a more diverse future. The lenses that we see through become more clear as well, but more and more varied at the same time, because that's exciting to us. And makers are just one type of people. They're really important, and I think evolutionarily speaking, in the past, they were a less valued member of the tribe because a maker doesn't typically go get as many deer for the tribe. They aren't productive on the day-to-day the same way that somebody who has a mentality that's more consistent would be. So the value of a maker is not as obvious. It's not as consistently obvious. So I think we're in an era where makers are starting to rise in value because we have enough technology that we can leverage our talents. And that doesn't mean that we'll always be the most valuable. I think we're just temporarily in a point of leveraged value. The vast majority of religions are based on looking to the sky or looking to the earth. They're looking to solve existential dilemmas by either looking to the sky or looking to the earth. So the most of Western religions are based on looking to the sky. Christianity is the obvious answer there, but there's a whole bunch of others. They look to the sky. In other words, if you were to ask someone from one of those religions, hey, how do I find the meaning of life? How do I reach enlightenment? How do I become great? All the things, how do I know what to do? They would say, look up at the highest good that you can perceive. Look up and for the most powerful thing you can imagine. Focus everything you possibly can on that thing, and then from that, you will know how to eat, you will know how to breathe, will know how to live, you will know how to walk. Everything from the top down will be cared for. You won't need to worry about a thing. And then if you were to go to somebody from a more Eastern religion and you were to ask them the same question of, hey, how do I reach enlightenment? How do I do all the things that I need to do? How do I obtain some peace, etc., etc.? They'd say, okay, sit down, focus on your breath, and feel the air, feel the ground beneath you, and focus on the most simple thing you can possibly imagine. And then from that, you will start to naturally get a sense for what you need to eat and how you need to breathe, how you need to think, and how you need to act. And eventually, from tapping into that earthbound sense of being, you will become so in line with yourself that eventually you will meet God. And what's funny is, well, they're both right. Meta learning is studying learning. Instead of learning a specific thing, you're learning how to learn. And it's critical. It's so important to understand that learning isn't an accident, because millions of people go throughout their day assuming that they can either be good at something or not. And they don't understand that getting good at something is a gradual process that comes from a set of skills. And that set of skills is meta learning. I think cryptocurrencies are brilliant. Cryptocurrencies are just math. Generally, put an overemphasis on what we think money is. We think that, if we live in America, we think that the US dollar is this really unique thing that everyone agrees has the same value. It's all the same, and it would never change. But it changes every year. The value of the dollar changes every year. What the dollar is made of changes every year. How we perceive the dollar changes every year. There's more US dollars on the internet now than there are in real life, so that changed things a lot. There was a time when the US dollar was attached to the gold standard. It's not anymore. There's all these different things that have let the dollar evolve over the years. I mean, there was a time when our dollars, not in the US, but other places, were seashells. And math is a totally reasonable thing to call a dollar. Math is a totally reasonable thing to call money. So I think cryptocurrency could be a brilliant way to go. There's a lot of dangers there. For one is, if cryptocurrency is truly successful, it would require a sort of horrific upturning of the world economy that we don't actually want. And those aren't my words. I think those are from, I think it was Chamath Palihapitiya, who owns a ton of Bitcoin. But I mean, he straight up was like, look, like if Bitcoin truly wins and it becomes like the reserve currency, that means horrible things happened. So we don't necessarily want that. But cryptocurrency itself, I think, is a valuable addition to the world economy because it's a new way to look at money. And we need that. We need to understand different ways to look at money. It kind of goes back to the earlier thing I was talking about of how life has to become more multifaceted, not less. So having a truly digital currency is a really great addition to our world, I think. So a lot of people are concerned in a way about an apocalypse at the moment in one form or another because of, like the Roni Retro whatever thing that happened, Apocalypses are kind of a non-issue in a way, is I think the way you should classify it. Because an apocalypse, by definition, is something you can't deal with. An apocalypse, by definition, is something where all context changes. So, yeah, sure, people make nuclear bunkers and make all sorts of crazy, preparations and stuff. And I'm not saying they're crazy. I'm just saying, like, some people put a lot of energy into doing this. And the truth is, when the apocalypse comes, all context goes out the window. So you don't know what you need, which means that the only thing you do know you need is a human who can cope. So best possible apocalypse preparation that I can imagine is build yourself into a human that's better at adapting. The more capable you are at adapting, the easier the apocalypse is. So no matter what you prepared for, if you don't know how to adapt, none of your preparations mattered. So that's my thoughts on the apocalypse.